In today's video, I want to share one of the most underappreciated hacks for maximizing your personal education. Now, I love to learn. It's one of my favorite things to do. I assume if you're watching this channel, you probably do too. So I want to share something that I've used to great effect over the years that I believe have helped increase my retention, my ability to synthesize information, and most importantly, my ability to take knowledge and turn it into action. And this simple underappreciated tip is reread books. Don't always keep reading new things. There's a time and a place for going wide. There's also a time and place for going deep. And I would maintain that most of us could probably come up with a list of 5 to 10 to maybe 15 books you've read that were monumental, that really impacted how you look at the world, how you look at your business. And while there's a place for learning new things, my suggestion is curate a list of the books that had the biggest impact on how you view the world and how you view your business, and then create some system to periodically return to those books. For context, I read a lot of books, right? It's going to read and or audiobook, many books. And at this point, over the past 3 years, I would say I have arrived upon a rhythm where I am now probably consuming maybe 60% of the books that I read and or audiobook, often at the same time, because I'm that kind of person. Probably 60% of those books are rereads. I'm revisiting books that were influential. And I find that my understanding of the concepts become deeper and richer with repeated revisiting. Now, part of this is because I've had time to live with a lot of the concepts. And an interesting thing that happens is I will often read a book and then be reminded of an idea that has felt so intuitive and such a core way to look at the world, but I forgot, oh yeah, I learned about in this book, right? And what you'll find is that, as the saying goes, you can't ever, I'm absolutely butchering this quote, but you can't step into the same river twice because you're a different person. Well, books are similar. Now, I want to offer one other signal that might cue you to add a book to a read book list. And that is when you read a book that was recommended from someone or multiple people that you highly trust and respect, and you just don't get it. Because sometimes it's just not the right time for that book. As an example, this book here is one of my favorite books of all time, Crucial Conversations. It is nothing less than a guidebook for how to effectively have difficult conversations when the stakes are high in a way that preserves and ideally strengthens the relationship between you and the individual that are having this difficult conversation. It is a truism of the world that the quality of your life is highly correlated with the number of difficult conversations you have. But the challenge is most of us are not great at having difficult conversations, particularly when we're feeling heated, when we feel vulnerable. And this book is, I can't recommend it enough. It's been an absolute game changer for me. But I want to get fast. I first read this in 2011. This was right after MFF was open, and I didn't totally get it. I was like, okay. Like, I liked it, but some part of me knew, okay, this was recommended. In this case, I believe it was from Dr. John Berardi, who is a founder of a nutrition company called Precision Nutrition. He was someone I really followed, and to this day is somebody I really look up to and admire. And I know that, okay, well, JB says this book is worth reading, and I didn't find that revelatory, maybe just not the right time. So to my credit, several years later, probably 2014-ish, 2015, MFF had been around for several years, and like any organization, we are now having some conflict. There was some tensions and conflict, and I revisited this book and found it to be so revelatory that we wound up having the entire team read it. We've done a lot of workshops on this, and to this day, it's still the guidelines we use when we continue as needed, as necessary, as inevitable, need to have difficult conversations with each other. So your takeaway for this is certainly not to not read new books. Again, I think there's a place for going wide, but particularly when you're dealing with business books, which I don't tend to read as many of these days, I still do. The reality is it's really all derivative. There's nothing new under the sun. So certainly sometimes a new book from a new author will have an interesting way of synthesizing information, but for the most part, it's not necessarily going to be new stuff. So I have found myself more interested in rereading the classics and rereading books that I know for me were very personally meaningful, that really opened up my perceptions and expanded my view of possibility for the human experience. So that's your pro tip for today. Reread books. Don't read them once and forget about them. You will have much better synthesis if your favorite books you review maybe every 2 to 3 years. So if you're interested in creating more impact, having more take-home income, and more happiness from your training gym, be sure to subscribe, share, like, do all the things, and I'll give you more actionable strategies psychological frameworks, and philosophy.